I wanted to continue speaking last week's topic. On one hand, there's a lot to speak about. On the other hand, the discussion is pretty... No, the discussion is pretty straightforward and direct. The main question is that to understand what's the meaning of Rashi. The Rashi says, the Gemara says that there were six, we call it three oaths, really six, the Gemara says. The Eibusher made Yidden swear. One is Yidden won't go up to Eretz Yisrael all as one, they won't rebel against nations of the world. They won't try to bring the redemption with their own hand, basically. The Eibusher made the nations swear that they won't subjugate the Jews too much. And then there's also these three shvuos that it says that they shouldn't reveal the end of days, they shouldn't prolong the end of days, and they should not reveal the secret, whatever that means, the secrets of the Torah to Goyim. So the Rashi explains what means they shouldn't. The video is okay. What does it mean? They shouldn't Yirchak literally they shouldn't push away the end of days. Rashi says they shouldn't push off the end of days with their sin. They shouldn't push it. They shouldn't request it too much. So there's 2 points here. One point is you have some people that are antagonistic, and the question, there's a very, I don't know what the right word to use is, I'll call it very unprofessional understanding of this Gemara, which is based in a misunderstanding of many other fundamental principles about Moshiach that some people have, which is that what does it mean? You shouldn't push for Moshiach, you shouldn't down for it too much. You say, it's not our business when Moshiach comes, if he comes, should he come, should he not come. The Eibusher basically tells you that I want you to get involved, don't push it too much. I'll bring it when I want and have a nice day. I mean, this understanding is, first of all, reflects a very bad, to use a good word, understanding of how the Jewish people relate to Moshiach. And I mean, there's so many sources about the Eibusher wants and is waiting for the Jewish people to pray. The Eibusher has kindness to the Yidden. Why they're not asking for Moshiach? And it's plenty of Emorei Chazal. And the whole understanding that Moshiach is something the Eibusher brings, and we're just sitting bystanders, is just the opposite of understanding what Moshiach is all about. In the first we'll discuss this in the past. It also more particularly reflects a bad understanding of what the kates, the end of days, mean. People say, yeah, Moshiach is very important, but there's a set time. Basically, until the set time comes, it's none of our business bringing Moshiach, not bringing Moshiach. We'll come at the set time.
We don't know what's the set time.
We don't know what the set time is. First of all, there's different set times. You see here that there's a possibility that you could be merachik as case. You could, God forbid, push off, but delay the end of time. So people look at it, the word kates, end of time, to interpret to mean there's a set time when Mashiach is supposed to come, and that's very important. But until that set time happens, the basic understanding that the Geula that the Geula that's going to happen is not just something that happens, all of a sudden the Eibusher wants, but it's totally in the Avodah V'Yid, and the case is totally in us, and that we participate in the bringing of Mashiach.
I showed you what there's a Rashi in Shabbos. Rashi says over there, the ketz is, according to Rashi, it doesn't make sense. The Rashi titles, ketz means an opportunity. It doesn't mean the act to come. The Gemara says there are two different things. There's a ketz, and then you actually come. It's two different separate things.
Look.
I showed you Rashi.
I don't know.
Showed you. Ketz is an opportunity. It doesn't mean it doesn't.
It's different types of kitzim. The word kates could mean
different
things. Ketz is not only that. You're looking maybe synthetic days. I believe it's Mishnah Pass. Kates Hadodes, Kates Hashon. I don't want to get into it. It's a very, very big subject, okay, but there's a very big misunderstanding here that people take the words of the Gemara at face value as a case, as the end of time. Not, I don't mean the end of time, the set time. And Moshiach is supposed to come that time. It's not shaykh for us to make him come early. It doesn't matter whether we could make him come early, but until that set time, like Moshiach is something which is programmed at a certain time. Up until that point, it's not part of the program. There's a total misunderstanding that Adrabah, the end time, is a result of all the avodah leading up until then. Particularly if you don't learn Chassidus, you don't understand the whole, what Mashiach means and how Mashiach comes and what process leads to Mashiach, you can make this faulty understanding. But I don't want to get it. We discussed this in the past already. I mean that's just, there's a lot of learning about Mashiach that is necessary for people to understand why that notion is completely incorrect. But so that's first of all. There's a very unfortunate understanding of this Maimer Chazal. But as if Ki'ilu is like saying, the Eibusher says, you stay in Galus, don't worry about Mashiach. The question is, what about Shemoneh Esrei Sefirot from Mashiach and thus, like all, there's Rabbi Klein, Rabbi Menashe Klein has in his Sha'al Chuvas Mishnah Halachos Chelik Yudalef, the first Simon, he speaks about this. What does it mean not to request too much? He starts giving a whole list, all the places in davening. It's very interesting how he lists it, Tikkun Chatzos, everything about Mashiach, Shemoneh Esrei, benching, so he says, I don't know, like you eat, you sleep, you wake up, that's all about Mashiach. So the answer that people give reflects the complete misunderstanding of it. They say, yeah, this is what you're supposed to say, but not supposed to do more than that. First of all, reflects, they obviously don't identify with what they say. Yeah, they really think that it's some type of lip service. You're supposed to tell the Eibusher you are Mashiach, but you're not really supposed to mean it, Rahman al-Islam, That's first of all. That answer reflects that you don't need to go further, just shows that there's a basic misunderstanding of what davening means and why you're davening for Mashiach, but also
who writes those answers?
Who writes is unfortunately the
it's tachtonim, as we say, call it. That's what I was educated is tachtonim.
You're right. You're right. But unfortunately, people that don't learn about Mashiach and they don't put everything into perspective, it's very easy to make this mistake. You take this Maimer Chazal, for example, you don't see all the other Maimer Chazal. Counterbalance this. But I don't want to get into that right now. I just wanted, it's very important to point that out. So the other problem with that answer about all the tefillos is that it says you shouldn't daven that yosim yadai, more than enough. It doesn't mean more than enough if every day you're davening so many times about it. So when exactly is the limit? More than enough, not more than enough. But the main thing where I want to discuss this was more to understand Poshet's. The question here wasn't, I wasn't discussing last week so much the notion that people have, they're not supposed to, bringing Mashiach is not our problem, but it was more discussing what does Takarashi mean here. So in general, there's a number of approaches over here, and I'll review them with a few more details. First of all, the Moonkatcher speaks about this. The Moonkatcher wrote a few places about this. Actually, he didn't write it himself, but he also... one of his Talmudim, Reb Shlomo Tzukar, the Psarav, Hungary songs, I think, he commissioned him to write a sefer called Mashmiya Yeshua. And during the First World War, the Moonkatcher came up very strongly, very fiery opinion that you have to daven, you shouldn't daven that the war should end, you should daven the Mashiach should come, instead of davening for a temporary break and then temporary peace, you should daven for Mashiach to come. Very strong about it. And the whole sefer, it's a very powerful sefer, discusses a lot. It brings a very fascinating sefer. The truth is, he brings many different interesting sfarim about different on that topic.
What's the sefer called?
Mashmiya Yeshua. You can find it in HebrewBooks.org if you're interested. So. But it was written with his under. He was the one that told him to write it. So he came out very strong. He says you have to have Mesiras Nefesh Mashiach to come. It's a big. I don't want to speak about it. It's very, very interesting though. It also shows you how much we don't understand what goes on behind the scenes. There are certain machlokes between him and another Gadol v'Yisrael. Yeah. And people thought the machlokes was about petty things. I saw a sefer that he writes, his father lived in Munkach, and the machlokes was the Munkacher wanted that they should, that Gitaina, you have to daven Moshiach should come. The other God of Israel Gitaina, now is not yet this man Hagulan. Almonas and Yisraelim are coming to him crying, the husbands are being killed, they don't have their father. So he wanted the war to end. He didn't want so the machlokes looked like that it was a Psarabonus fight. It really was a fight. The Munkacher wanted that everyone should, all the tzaddikim should come together to agree that they should daven for Mashiach. Whatever. But when you see a little bit more of the history, it's very fascinating. But anyway, so the Munkacher speaks about this Rashi a number of times. He takes a very strong approach, I would say. Yeah, he has it in great guide, no question about it. He has broad shoulders, as they say. First of all, he writes the words of Rashi are not necessarily lahalacha. They're not halacha. First of all, he writes, Rashi says, there's one version of the Gemara, they shouldn't further the end of day, and which means they shouldn't disna through their sins. And Rashi says there's another version that they shouldn't push off the end of day. They shouldn't be doichik. That's fine. Even according to that version, he says you could explain it differently than Rashi. Yitzchak to push, but also means to push away. Doesn't have to mean to push, to force the end of days to come. So he says why Rashi's interpretation is not definite. It doesn't have to be that pshat in Gemara. And he says, then he speaks another place, he says, what's the limit? He says, all our davening is full to Tikkun Chatzos. He mentioned last week, Tzaddikim used to cry for hours, Tikkun Chatzos. What were they crying about? Beis Mashiach should come. They weren't crying, they were crying about the Talmidish destruction. They weren't asking for Mashiach to come. He says, if so, that's called being Mahara Racham Yidei. It means you're complaining to the Eibush. You're not asking for something. It's even, whatever. So he writes the word to Rashi here. One place he writes the B'chal, the not lahalacha. That's first of all. Second thing he writes, which is I read in many other, you have the Yismach Moshe wrote this, and Chassam Sofer writes. This is a mahalach that the Rebbe also seems to have accepted. One of the at least ways of understanding this Gemara is that it's only talking about doing something in like using Kabbalah Mises, practical Kabbalah, or different stories I mentioned, Yosef Dularain and others, that they tried to use different mystical powers to try to force Moshiach to come. It wasn't just davening for Moshiach, but they were trying to force it to come. So this is what it's talking about. I mentioned last week also the Yoel Moshe or whatever. It went back and forth. Interesting is how we had discussed it with Rashi. So he says, the only problem he says is that the simple reading of Rashi doesn't seem to support this. Rashi says they shouldn't daven too much. It doesn't say about being mashpia malachim, kabbalah maisis. He could have put it in the words of Rashi. So there's another approach he gives. The truth is that Tzaddik Kakoyin, Pri Tzaddik and Parshas Eschan in the beginning, he says the same thing. He says there were certain tzaddikim that had the power to bring Mashiach through their davening. And there's the famous story in the Gemara about Netziah, Rabbi Chia and his sons, that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi put them to the Amud. And he says those tzaddikim that had the power, they knew when their limit was, not to push it too much. So, in other words, the point over here is, let's understand the context. The point over here is, Yitzchak Saketz means to force Mashiach to come. Now, a regular Yid is going to sit and daven. A lot of davens is going to force Moshiach to come. You had tzaddikim that had the koyach through their tefillah to do that. You had a few tzaddikim. So to them, this is what was directed to. So that's what he says. That's one. Now, just to backtrack a little bit, there's a whole discussion which I mentioned last week. I don't want to get into, which is this really is a whole, when the Zionism came, the debate. It's a very complicated discussion on many, many fronts, whether these oaths are still binding now. And because the Zionists believe, and everyone should go up to Eretz Yisrael, make her establish something, they seem to completely, openly be rejecting these three oaths. And there are various different approaches. And like I mentioned last week, the Rebbe clearly, when he spoke about the three oaths, it seems that the Rebbe held that they still existed, even though he could argue that the Rebbe was saying that if they Rebbe clearly didn't just throw them away. That's clear. But it was back and forth. There was a whole discussion. But part of the discussions, we don't find anywhere that these oaths are brought down in halacha. There's no halacha in Shulchan Aruch that says you're not allowed to rebel against the nations. There's no halacha in Shulchan Aruch says you're not allowed to daven too much for Mashiach. So in general, there's a whole discussion of these things are la halacha. That's true. So it's very important to keep that into context. When the Munkasher said that this Rashi, you shouldn't daven too much, is not la halacha, it's not just coming out of the blue to say that this Rashi is not la halacha, because there's much more general context over here. This whole Gemara B'chlal is la halacha. It doesn't mean it's not binding, but in other words, the difference between something which is binding you in a more of a spiritual way than something which is actual halacha and Torah. But another part of the discussion is that some people hold that these oaths expired after 1,000 years. And there our earlier svarim, particularly regarding this thing of not davening too much. There's a sefer written, one of the Chachamei Teimanim, or Kupa, whatever. He writes, there's other sources also, again, it's a very complex and unclear discussion, but he writes that it's not, the Zohar brought down that Yidden were supposed to be in Galus for the Elef HaChamishi, the 5th millennium, that is. The 6th millennium was already an opportune time for Moshiach to come. So he writes that this issue of davening too much for Moshiach only applied during the 5th millennium. The Pasuk Kol HaYom Dava, the whole day is the day, by day B'Sher day is 1,000 years. The 5th millennium that was the Gzeres HaGalos, the initial decree of Galos, only supposed to be 1,000 years. Anything more than that is already more. So he says it was only during that time. After that time, it doesn't apply anymore. Some people want to say that all these oaths they wanted to say only applies during the 1,000 years. Other people will be shooting and vowed and how can you say such a thing? But particularly regarding this idea not to daven too much, that's what some people said. There's a sefer by the Malay Haroyim, people know him famously, the sefer wrote Gehelos Yaakov, which is like an encyclopedia of Kabbalah, different things, what they are according to Kabbalah. He writes in the Sefer, one of his svarim that he wrote a Sefer called Yaakov, that he heard from the Chayzer from Lublin, that at this time, it's not called anymore being Doichik Asakes. Pushing off the end of times means...
Time of the Chayzer.
Yeah, it means that you're pushing it, but now it's already the time for Mashiach, not pushing it. More, in other words, I mean, I don't want to get into the discussion, but there's, for example, in Kisvei Arizal, I believe it says that from the year Shimon Medhei, year 5,335 is already the time of Be'ita. It's not Achshen anymore. It's already so from that point on, it's already considered the regular time for me. So the Rebbe, like I mentioned also last week, took this a step further. The Rebbe said that already in the time of the Gemara, Kolu Kolakitz, and all the end times are over. So to say that there's the Isser now to push the end of days doesn't apply. It's important, again, in this discussion, it's very important to understand the context. And again, I'm maybe embellishing a little bit, taking a little bit of the break, I could explain it a little bit, but this is what comes up from the sources. Let's understand what is the problem being Doichik Asakes. What is the problem with it? Like I mentioned last week, the problem is a pasuk that says, the pasuk's really based on to Idu V'Yayim. Shpaiti Eschem, the pasuk in Shir HaShirim, says it 4 times, 4 different pasukim that are written a little bit differently. David says, I made you swear the daughters of Yerushalayim to Idu Asab Anshetachvat. You will awaken the love until it will desire. And the mashal is that David loves the Jewish people, and he says, I don't want you to beg me too. I don't want you to beg me too much for Mashiach, because if you beg me too much, I'm going to be forced to listen to you. But it's not the right time yet, so just wait until the time comes. So what does David care if we push Moshiach? So for that, the like I mentioned last week, the standard explanation is because if we push it, you're going to be hitting the Shamas that will be lost. Similar answer, which is connected probably, is that Mashiach will come through a lot of suffering. David says, don't push it. Obviously, Klal Yisrael suffering. Don't push it. So, the idea here is like this. There's a context here, and there's a very fine balance. Look at the Maram in Prague also, he explains. There's 2 shvuos over here. One is they shouldn't, the way it fits in the Gemara is everything, but amongst the shvuos there's 2 things. One is they shouldn't push away the end of days, one is they shouldn't push it too early. In other words, the Eibusher doesn't want you to prolong it, and he doesn't want you to push it too quickly. So, in other words, there's a fine balance. The same way a person can't say, oh, we can't push Mashiach to come, but you can't, on the other hand, ignore Mashiach's coming. Even at that time, let's say, according to the answer, that you weren't allowed to push it, but, you can't, there was a fine balance. You had to daven, because you couldn't force it. What's the point? So the point is, again, the idea here is you want Mashiach, to borrow the terms, from Yudas Kislev, the Alter Rebbe, when he went to Peterburg, he said 10 Chassidim shouldn't come. One of them was Rabbi Michal of Paskes. He gave a ban. He didn't want any Chassidim to come to Peterburg. Particularly, he was afraid from certain Chassidim. One of his Chassidim was Rabbi Michal of Paskes, the holy chief. So he was able to burn down the whole Peterburg. He was going to get the Alter Rebbe out of prison, through other means and conventional ways. What's the problem if he does that? Alter Rebbe also, the famous story that the Barditchva, that Baruch Mezhe B'Sha'asim, you could have put your hand on your forehead and he would have brought Mashiach. So he says, the point is, regarding the Chassidus now, regarding Mashiach has to become part of the world. If you push it, either in time, in other words, you push it too early, or the way you bring it is you force it, you miss the boat. In other words, Mashiach is not going to be internalized within the Kavanah won't be Nismali. So Mamela, it's self-understood, first of all, that when you have to understand when is the proper time that you could daven for Mashiach, or that together with that, the same way you're not supposed to push Mashiach, but it's your job to make the coming of Mashiach internalized within within the system. So Mamela, this idea of pushing the end of days is only when your tefillah, you consider pushing, that you're trying to force it to come, and not when it's supposed to come. So those tzaddikim that were trying to use Kabbalah Maisis, they were definitely trying to force Mashiach when it wasn't yet the time. Those tzaddikim that had the koyach, that were there davening, they were able to force Mashiach. Also, now without using Kabbalah Maisis, like the other answer, that certain tzaddikim had the power through the field that would bring Mashiach. It's also the point here is you're forcing it. Forcing it is a problematic. We also have the truth, is Rashi is not the only one. They printed some time ago this from the Rikeach he has in the Siddur. So they have from him on the Hishinus. So there's a certain Hishinah, we don't say Kalim or Shoyis, whatever. He writes there, he also brings down, he has a little bit of a different gears in the Medrash. He also brings down this thing, Shleit Chakos HaKates, through davening. And he says, what does it mean? That they shouldn't all come together to daven for it. It seems what he's trying to say, when there's Rahman al-Islam, there's a plague, there's a famine, so the halacha says you all come together, you blow shofar, you daven. So to daven for Mashiach in such a way is also, that's where he seems to be learning. In other words, it can't be goyzer, a kind of sibur, let's all come and daven for Mashiach. Again, I'm not saying it's la halacha, I'm just saying, he says, shlo kulam yachad with something like that, yeah. In other words, it's not that he gives a certain context. In other words, it's also you're like trying to force it. But when you're davening, it's already getting late, but whatever, there's many other points I wanted to say. 2 points. First of all, the Munkacher, he also writes, he said that the Bnei Yisachar was a Zayda. He said, David knows, he said there's one shame, and I'm sorry, that was a Kosh. Gazan said that there's a certain shame, a certain name of Hashem, he knows they could bring Mashiach with it, but he doesn't use it because if David doesn't want to get bring Mashiach, he also obviously understands he shouldn't use it to bring Mashiach. Then there was the Bnei Yisachar says that David knows that if we wanted to, so we could have broke gates and locks, moirin, how do you say a moir, fortress and locks to bring Mashiach. So but what could we do? David told us, so it's a Minchas Elazar asks, Pikuach Nefesh, Jewish lives are at stake every day in Golus. So let's say there's the Shvuah, and the Shvuah it forbids us. But who cares if it forbids us? We have to go. We have to put our life on the line to save other Jews and to bring Mashiach. So he says the answer you have to say is that if they would have done it this way, Mashiach, it wouldn't have ended up being a proper Yeshua. You wouldn't have accomplished anything. There's a word of the Rebbe, it says that if someone is in the Ir Miklat, he kills someone by mistake and he has to run away to a city of refuge, so he's not allowed to leave, even if all the Jewish people need him, like Yoav ben Tzruya, the general, in times of David HaMelech. So the Rebbe asks, all the Jewish people need this guy. Why shouldn't he be allowed to leave? So whatever the explanation is, the Rebbe says another word, that since Torah says he shouldn't leave, is a right that if he would leave, he wouldn't help the Jewish people. So in other words, so he says, if you push it, it's not going to end up being It's not going to really end up being the right thing. But anyway, the point that I wanted to finish off, like I mentioned, the Rebbe spoke a number of times about different ways. One time the Rebbe said about, few times the Rebbe said that this doesn't apply nowadays. It's also very important to understand that this, I want to get into this, but the Rebbe wasn't saying, the Rebbe was using it particularly regarding doing Pu'ulas in Torah mitzvahs to bring Mashiach, not not Kabbalah, not whatever. That's where Zionism would get in that shalish shvuos, which is connected, but a different discussion. The Rebbe also, another time he said, which is a very, very, I think it's in some sense you say the answer to many people today. The Rebbe said, I'm talking about when you daven, you should really mean what you say, and you should really do something about it. If you really mean what you say, you're going to want to bring Mashiach. And then there was other times the Rebbe said, interesting thing, whatever, that's a separate thing. So that was basically that the time already came, Kol HaKitzin, at the time already came, and that
what's the mile of the difference in the Mishnah is going to go it was masbid that the also that has to happen, that the Nissan the Goyim has to happen after the Aveda Tishrei, because then it comes to the level where the Bas, which is the name from Mamaila, it's not Aveda Lamata, it's not because it's not Lamata, it's because complete bittul. But you have to go through the whole process of Aveda. You can't get there in the right way unless you go through the whole process of the whole Seder. Yeah, so you're going to go they jump into the bittul. You're going to get rid of the bittul that's not bittul. That's the mile that Sengula is Mitzrayim. You can't have it. You can't have it. You should have the Gula Sivir. It has to have both. It has to have the mile of Avedis Atzmei. And B'Shas Ma'aseh, if you have the Chedesh Nissan, which is the from a higher mile, because it's bittul, not because it comes from mile alone. It comes as a result.
Well, I finished with one point. The Rebbe spoke once. A sikh on Pirkei Avos. Hayom Chatzim Machon Ruba Baal Abayis Doichei. Baal Abayis goes on the Eibusher. The Eibusher himself is Doichei Gesakrit. Not the Eibusher is allowed to do. When the Eibusher, you know, the Eibusher is pushing from the Mashiach. The Rebbe told, I saw recently, was during the Rebbe sitting after Chopei Shvat. He said, the other ones that came to the Rebbe, maybe the Matter stuff, the Rebbe told people make a mistake. They think that it's the Eibusher wants us to ask for Mashiach. Chofetz Chaim, you have very strong Lashon. It says Gzeras Tach V'Tat happened because Pesach came. That year there was a Shnas HaKidah, Tach, was a year the Mashiach was supposed to come. Because Yidden didn't daven for Mashiach, so Rahman San ended up being terrible pogroms. In other words, people don't understand that they look at this thing, they don't understand that they by us not davening for Mashiach, we're delaying Mashiach. Today the problem is not that we're davening too much. If anything, the problem is that we don't care enough about it, we're delaying Mashiach, which is also part of the Shalom Shavuos. So it's a lot of you can take it from Yad Mamash, listen to something.